In this video, we'll show you how to replace the fuel pressure regulator on your Subaru Baja. This is located in the engine bay and right behind the intake manifold. Let's get started. We'll use a 10mm. We can just loosen up the terminal a little bit and set it off to the side. We have two 10mm we can remove from either side of the airbox. We need to remove this in order to get access to our knock sensor. We can do the same with the 10mm on the other side. We can unplug this sensor into the airbox. Now we can use an 8mm or a flathead to loosen up this hose clamp. Now we have vacuum hoses on either side. These just have a little pinch clamp. Move that off and then pull the hose off. We'll do the same to the one on the other side. On this side, we can pull part of the intake hose out of the way and then pinch that clamp and pull the hose off. Now we can pull on the airbox towards the back of the vehicle and lift it out of the car. I'm using a little fork clip tool here. You can certainly use a flathead screwdriver. I'm just going to pop this clip off of its bracket. That'll give us a little more wiggle room. We have a vacuum hose coming from our intake manifold here. Give that a twist, and we can remove that from the regulator. On the back side of the regulator, we have two Phillips head screws and then one holding our hose clamp on. We can go ahead and remove those. We can use a Phillips head screwdriver to loosen these up. Once I have the screwdriver in its place in the screw, I'm going to cover this with a rag. That way I don't get any fuel if it sprays out. I'll start to loosen the top one up and leave it in a little bit while I loosen the bottom one. Same as the top one, I'm going to wrap the rag around here. Before I remove those, I'm going to move on to the hose clamp. We'll get that started. You want that held nice and still while you get that one started as well. With that one started, we can go ahead and remove these other two. I'm going to grab the regulator, wrap the rag around again. We can start to wiggle that off. Now we can loosen up the clamp enough to pull the regulator out of the hose. We can start to get the end of the pressure regulator into our rubber hose. We're going to make sure that the regulator is fully bottomed out into the rubber hose. And we can start to wiggle the fitting on the other side into the hard line. Get our screws lined up. Get the first one started in, but not tighten it down yet. We'll get our second one started in. Now with those tightened down, we can move on to the hose clamp. Once you have the hose clamp tightened down, you want to make sure that it's not going to pull off. And we can reconnect the vacuum hose. And we can get the bolt back in to our bracket for the intake box. We can go ahead and snug that down. We can get our air box lined back up. Slide that over the throttle body. You want to check to make sure that you haven't folded over your rubber grommet on the bottom as you do this. Get that seated down and get each of your bolt holes lined up. Get our bolts back in. We'll snug each of these down. Next, we need to get the vacuum hoses on each side of the airbox. Make sure you get the clamp back on there. On the passenger side, we need to get the intake back together. We can just push that together. Get the hose on the other side. Don't forget the clamp. It's good to try to get these pinch clamps down the same orientation that they were when you removed them. That way they don't want to pull off. We'll plug this connector back in. Make sure that's fully seated and won't pull back off. Now we can tighten down the hose clamp holding on the airbox. This doesn't need to be too tight, just tight enough to hold the airbox on. You get the terminal on the battery. Make sure that your 10mm is orientated so that you can tighten it down. And we'll just snug that up. Go ahead and turn the key to ignition to 3 to 5 times to let the fuel pump prime. Then you should be able to start the vehicle. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.